The first one is Mr. Ken Cool.
Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me tonight. I'm here tonight to add on to what I said 2 weeks ago about how I feel violated when I see the photo enforcement signs. This is from RT. FBI begins installation of $1 billion facial recognition system across America. Another one, this is from Colorado Tribune, and it says that license plate readers create, quote, massive intelligence database. The next one, last one, Congress approves 30,000 spy drones over America. Act has just passed.
Mr. Cool, your 3 minutes is up, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Next we have Mr. J. I apologize, really?
Zvirgzdins. I know that's last week I brought to your attention the city of Houston, which is on the hook for, I believe it was almost $2 million in a lawsuit settlement with American Traffic Solutions because the people of Houston decided to vote the red light cameras out. I am hoping that we can avoid this going to the public debate and going to a public vote, and that our elected officials can take the lead of these cities that have already, I've got 4 pages of cities that have already removed the red light cameras. Many of them have done it simply because of the public outcry, also because the lack of safety, increased safety at the intersections where the red light cameras are. I got this article from Rochester, New York that just came out this week that I would like to bring to your attention, and it involves the fact that 119 city-owned vehicles were ticketed in an 8-month period in Rochester, New York, and those drivers of those vehicles were not liable to pay the fines. I would like to make sure that if we are having these red light cameras in the city of Florissant, that all city vehicles, animal control, parks and recreation, police vehicles that do not have their emergency lights enacted are being ticketed and are being held to the same standard as the citizens. I would ask the city council to find out if we have that on the books, if we have an ordinance or we have a way of tracking city-owned vehicles that were ticketed for red light camera violations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Ware. Next we have Mr. Dave Cool.
I too thank you for the opportunity to speak with the council. This is my father, Mr. Kenneth Leonard Cool, who served in World War II. They would be appalled if fortunately my father has passed on and doesn't have to bear witness to what I'm witness to. He instilled in me loyalty and dignity and love for a country. I was witness to the disgusting ticketing by a camera. I pleaded several different ways in order to try to find justice. The judge ruled on every argument that I presented that he was going to go with the ordinance. I've now asked to take the case higher, and I had to personally fill out this portion of the application, which has my address clearly printed right there, which was mailed on to Clayton by the office.
Mr. Cool, your 3 minutes is up, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Mr. Dan Hyatt.
My name's Dan Hyatt. I'm a computer engineer. I've already met you folks. And I'm here, I'm against the photo enforcement as implemented by American Traffic Solutions. They represent to the public that it's a safety matter. If you actually look at the data and the studies, they're either doctored, they're too shallow to be accurate, or, like I said, the Kansas City one, after American Traffic Solutions got it, it's just plain fraudulent. I have both copies. I believe the programs violate the U.S. and Missouri Bill of Rights, the U.S. Constitution and the Missouri Constitution. When I'm driving through a town and I have to pay a tax in the guise of a photo enforcement ticket where they rigged the light, no professional engineer from MoDOT made sure that everything was set up correctly so they could maximize violations, that's an illegal tax, which U.S. Supreme Court says if I voluntarily pay it, I have to pay it. But it's wrong. It's wrong that I have to spend hours to stand up and say, no, this is wrong. Article 1, Section 2 of the Missouri Constitution says that constitutional government is to promote the general welfare, and that I and all other people have the natural life, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and enjoyment of the gains of my industry. When a city accuses me of a crime, not because I violated public safety, but because you want to share $500,000 or $1 million or $2 million, or in the case of St. Anne, $3 million a year with American Traffic Solutions and somebody else. So you do have a responsibility to the people to not do this. In the future elections, we plan to get on the ballot a prohibition of the photo enforcement, get it on the ballot. The people have.
Thank you, Mr. Hyatt. Your time's up, sir.
Lastly, we will track who's for and who's against it, and we will make it an issue in every future election. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Mr. Mike Garza.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. It's the first time I've ever got a chance to address the council. I, too, am concerned and against the photo enforcement. Some of these things that I found out were quite kind of took me by surprise. One of them being that American Traffic Solutions is not an engineering firm and therefore repeatedly violates Missouri laws requiring professional engineers to design and configure systems of public safety. If it has anything to do with public safety, cases show that it actually threatens public safety. Things like this, in my opinion, as a citizen, I think just seeing the cameras kind of make the citizens feel almost as if a police state is somewhat upon them. Not only do I think it goes against the Constitution and it presumes you guilty, as I understand, sometimes people get in the mail, they'll receive a ticket with a picture of your car, let's say doing 41 and a 30 or something like that, and then it'll say $100. Without you having a day in court or in front of a judge, you're automatically presumed guilty of a crime. And the whole idea of perhaps thinking, are these cameras even, are they calibrated correctly? How do you defend that? Another thing, too, when people see the cameras, I think, especially nowadays when we're in the economy that we're in, things are tight, people are a little desperate, and to get tickets in the mail from these cameras, I think it creates it doesn't really create a good community. It kind of creates us against them. And so if we were to do a study on what it really does safety-wise, I don't believe there's much evidence that proves that it is causing less accidents, none that I've read at least. I don't really think having it promotes public safety. I think it kind of creates a community that's divided between the police state, if you will, and a regular citizen. So
thank you, Mr. Garza.
Thank you guys very, very much for your time. I appreciate this.
Next, we have Mr. Daniel Sanderson.
All right, 2 weeks later, I'm back. Nice to see you all again. I just wanted to check up with you if any of you have looked up any of the things that I mentioned last week as far as the fluoridation of the water. But I want to just see by a show of hands if any of you have at least looked into it. And by a show of no hands, I am ashamed.
Sir, there's no communication between you and the dais.
I'm sorry?
There's no communication between you and the dais, so there's no answer one way or the other.
Okay. Well, I would just have to say that I hope that you did, but I'm here today to speak about the red light traffic cameras, okay? When you take out the human element, what do you get? You get nothing but cold-cut law, okay? We are human beings. We deserve the law, but we need mercy, okay? Just because a red light camera catches us going through an intersection, when people are on the roads, they're trying to go somewhere, so timing is not always within their best interest. We're all in a rush, and there is a saying, is that for those who don't make time, owe time. And if any of you have taken the opportunity to look into either the fluoridation of the water or by what my peers have said about American Traffic Solutions and the red light cameras, if you have not made time, you owe time. Thank you.
You take a mortal man